everybody, Gina DeLuca here. All right, today I am set up for a straight pour. I have covered my edges with the paint that is going to be my base coat and background color. And I am using these ArtMinds DIY and now Rapide paints that I've had for a while. I've kind of been hoarding them. It's time to use them. And the last painting I did, I got some very unusual cells, and I wanted to see if I could do that again with some different colors. And I can show you. If you can see these cells, they are not my typical boulder cells. They kind of have the opposite effect. Usually the boulder cells appear to be more rounded looking in their 3D effect, and these kind of have more of an effect of looking like little pools, kind of like holes. Not one for those with tropophobia, I guess. But it was kind of like the opposite 3D effect, where it appears to be deep instead of mounds. So I'm going to see if I can recreate that with some different colors. And the colors that I'm using, we have the ArtMinds DIY in Mystic or Mystical, Splash. I have the Decoart Americana Decor Metallics in Deep Sapphire. I absolutely love this line of paints, and if they ever discontinued them, I would be positively heartbroken. I am now a Decoart affiliate. Yay! So if you are going to buy your Decoart paints online, I recommend going to their website. Sometimes they have sales, but they always have a much wider selection of colors than you would find in the store. And that link is in the description box, and I would receive a commission at no additional cost to you. So if you're buying them online anyway, you know, help a sister out. I have the Liquitex Basics in Prussian Blue. So that is in this color here. This is a custom mix color, and it is a mixture of they're all the Liquitex Basics of mostly titanium white, a tiny bit of the Dioxazine purple, the Prussian blue, and a drop of the Phthalo Blue. This goes a long way into tinting your paints. So I recommend starting with white and adding slowly the other colors. If you mix those other colors and add white, it could wind up much darker than what you're going for. These paints are mixed 1 part paint to 2 parts Floetrol. And I did not need to add any water to these. They wound up the right consistency with just the Floetrol. And this is the consistency that we're working with. It's about a 2 on my consistency scale. It is making a mound, but it disappears very quickly. And when I'm doing straight pours with metallics, I always go for a 2 at least, because if you thin those metallics further than that, the mica will separate from the paints and then make a sheen. Basically on everything. And depending on what you're going for, if say I was doing a pour and I wanted it to look like sky, I might add silver to that and make it thin so that the silver kind of disperses and then it kind of gives the sky a glow. But when I'm going for the boulder cells, I do at least a 2 because I want them to stay together. Before we get started, have you seen the Fluid Art inspiration cards? If you have, you can fast forward about a minute, but if you have not, what we have are 52 cards. There are 42 technique cards, and each technique card has an associated video here on YouTube. This is the picture of the painting in that video. This box here contains a tip for that particular technique, And then this box down here, this is the color palette used in that painting. And then these two boxes can be used together for the basis of a 2-color palette, or you can build off of those. The reason that the exact paint colors and such are not on the cards is because I can't fit them. It just won't fit. You would need a magnifying glass to see it, but also not every paint brand is available all over the world, and these are shipped all over the world. So you kind of have to use your imagination if you need to custom mix or use the paint brands that are available to you. It is more about the inspiration and less about being completely exact. The only time you need exact is when you're doing a straight pour, because you need the reactions between those paints. There are also 8 bonus color palette cards. Each one has 5 color palettes. Use all of the colors or just use some of the colors. Mix and match the palette cards with the technique cards, and you have more paintings than you could ever create in a lifetime. And you can also use the palettes for other art forms such as beadwork or crochet, what have you. These are available at my website, GinaDeLuca.net, and also at Amazon.com. And if you get them off of Amazon, please do leave feedback. They are sticklers there for the algorithms, and feedback is a huge part of that. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is lay down my base coat. The reason we lay down a base coat is because you want your paint to slide around easily on your canvas. And if you don't have a base coat, when you pour your puddle onto your canvas, something has to stick to the canvas. So it is going to be the paint that touches the canvas first that is going to stick to it. And say you're doing a ring pour, you will lose all of your outer rings. And in straight pours, very often, some of the best cells are happening on the edge. And if you are rolling over top of that paint, the paint will roll over top of itself, then you're going to lose your edges and your composition. And the reason that I cover my edges first, particularly in a straight pour, is because I do tend to mix them thin, and then you run the risk of your canvas showing through on the edge. And then that would mean that you would have to come back later and touch it up to make the edges look nice. And that's just extra work. It's a lot easier to just take the 2 minutes and cover your edges, and then it's not something you have to worry about if you don't get great coverage on the sides when you tilt. The reason that I use the same color that I use for my background, when I say background, what I mean is the paint color that is going in the cup first, that usually winds up being the color that appears in between the cells. The cells kind of pop up through it. If there are bubbles in your base coat, which will happen, even if you torch it, you might not get all of those bubbles out. When you do torch your painting and those bubbles come up through your pour, if it's not a color that is in your painting, like if I were to have a white background for this, or a white base coat for this, and there's no white in my painting, and then those white cells pop up, that's not really the most desired effect, because they look like little pinheads that are popping up through your pour. So if I use a color that is in my pour, it is far less noticeable. It just kind of looks like it's part of the composition. And that's what you want. All right, let's put some paint in a cup. Starting off with my background slash base coat color. using about 2 ounces there. I'm reserving a little bit to put on the top. Always be sure to check the consistency before you pour. The sauce will thicken upon standing. Pouring from up high, I want it to sink. It is sinking. That's good news. When I'm doing a straight pour, if the paint doesn't sink when I put it in the cup, that is a good sign that I might not get cells. When it sinks, that increases my likelihood of getting cells. And here we go, again, up high, and it's sinking. Yay. And though I am using different paints from different color paints from the last painting, I am putting in the same brands in the same order. Don't want to change up too many things when you're doing an experiment. You kind of want to just change one thing at a time. And then you kind of realize what it is that's causing the effect. If you change too many things at once and something happens, then it's hard to know why it happened. Okay, and then I'm going to just put the rest of what is in here on top. Okay, another quick torch of the base coat. More bubbles have popped up. Let's get rid of these. Okay. Let's make a mess, shall we? Using this kind of cup does give a different effect than using a measuring cup. And I used this kind of cup on the last painting, and so I will do that again. As you get closer to the end of your cup, it will come out slower, and you'll want to get closer to your canvas. It will give you more control. Very important to remember that the center of your canvas is the part that's going to get stretched the most. So you want to try to be as careful as possible. I don't have much luck with dismounts with this kind of cup. We'll see what happens. Nope. I don't know what it is. Can't get a clean dismount. So I will take my skewer and come in and just tidy that up as much as I can. Okay. Whew. All right, well, these colors are looking really pretty together. Time to pop the bubbles. This technique creates a ton of bubbles. The way that it goes into the cup when I'm pouring up high creates bubbles. The way that is going onto the canvas creates a lot of bubbles. Is that a bubble or is that schmutz? Okay, so we are going to be very patient here. As I let this sit, more cells will be popping up, especially in this area. If I were to stretch it now, I would still get cells that would pop up after the tilt. I call them pop-up cells. Some people call them pearl cells. The ones that form before I tilt, this area here, become the boulder cells. They're the ones that stretch out and have that really 3D effect. And it's interesting, on that last painting, this part was the green, the emerald green deco art. So it kind of comes out the same way. And I'll be very interested to see if we get those funky, I don't know what to call them. Where it's not a boulder cell. It's like a pool of the big blue hole. I don't know. Lagoon cells. Again, popping the bubbles. As it sits, they keep coming to the top. And also, typically, I do not torch after I tilt because I don't want those little pin cells popping up. If I do it now, they will stretch out. If I torch after, they might pop up, but they won't expand, and so you just have these little dots, and I don't care for that in my paintings. The only time where I might do that is like if I stretched this out and there was nothing happening here, I might hit it with the torch after I tilt it then, because then I might at least get some of those pop-up cells coming through. But typically, once I tilt, I don't torch on straight pours. Other techniques you might need to, like if you were doing a flip cup with silicone, then you might want to. I don't like working with silicone. I haven't done that in a long time. It's so hard to varnish once you use silicone, and you can do all kinds of stuff to try to get that silicone off, and then you put your layer of varnish down and there's just little spots that won't adhere. And if I can get cells without using silicone, why would I use the silicone, right? So you'll see every time I torch this, I get more of these little cells in this area popping up, and they will stretch when I tilt. And in a straight pour, patience is paramount. I cannot express that enough. Patience in letting your pour sit, let it percolate, let those cells come up. But also when you're tilting, very important to be patient. Don't tilt too quickly. You don't want the paint to roll over top of itself and then you lose your composition. The center is looking really nice there. Happy with that. So this is looking good. And those bubbles are still popping up through the base coat. The reason I don't fast forward through this part and then just skip to the tilting is because I feel it's important for the viewer to see just how long I'm letting this sit. And I don't speed up the tilting because I think it is important that people see exactly how slow I am tilting, because it really does make a difference in the outcome of your painting. Oh, my little edge here is not as wet as I'd like it to be. Let me just touch that up. And then pop the bubbles I just made by doing that. Okay, one more hit with the torch here. All right, I think we are about ready to tilt. So many bubbles, it's unbelievable. All right, normally I go this way first, but the way this is setting up looks like I can make a corner easily here. So I'm going to come this way first. Slowly. Okay, bringing the weight of the paint back to center before I change directions. The reason I do that is it helps you to maintain control of your composition. First of all, and the weight of your paint, being mindful of the weight of your paint will allow you to have much better control over your composition. The weight of your paint is going to be where it's moving the fastest. So you can really get pretty specific about what you're pushing, or using that weight of the paint to push your paints where you want it to go. And you can almost make corners. The first corner is always the hardest for making a corner. But after that, as you can see, you can get close to making a corner. You'll never get a 90-degree angle, but go. You'll never get a 90-degree angle, but you can get perpendicular lines. Okay, and again, I'm bringing the weight of the paint back to center. I think I will come this way next. I think I'm moving too quickly. My center got a little wonky. And yes, that was too quickly. Shame on me. It is a challenge keeping an eye on everything on your painting at once. kind of like watching football. You have to see what's going on everywhere at the same time. Okay. Really bummed that my center got so wonky. And the last corner always takes forever. It's really easy to get impatient at this part and try to tilt it quicker. That will not do your composition any favors. So you can kind of see where it's got a little wiggly. I can't really point it out to you at the moment because I will just drip on the canvas. I really think that I prefer using a measuring cup. I think it comes out of the cup more evenly. When I use this kind of cup, it is not a perfectly round puddle, which tells me it's not coming out evenly. And I'm probably going to be tilting off a lot of what's happening here because I don't like this wiggly stuff that's happening. It's very distracting to me. Okay, I'm going to bring the weight back to center so I can push some of this edge off. Not quite centered. It's like watching molasses. It is very slow moving. And I kind of had the same thing happen in the last painting where I wound up tilting part of this middle off. And I don't want too much of that blue there. It would just make it feel heavy. And my center is completely gone now. You know, some days the paint is in your corner and some days it isn't. I'm very bummed about what happened in the center there. That is not what I wanted. It was such a good looking center. And like these wiggly lines, that's from tilting too quickly. You know, as slow as I was going, that was still too quickly. I may regret this. I just feel like that needed something there. That's kind of where the eye is going to be drawn to, and I wanted it to be a little something something. Okay. Well, I expect that as this sits, I will be getting more of these blue cells. Doesn't appear that I'm getting that lagoon effect. So perhaps it was one of those specific paint colors. Maybe it was the mysterious paint. But I'm gonna let this sit and do what it does. And I will bring you in for a close-up. Back in a few. Okay, here it is. It's been sitting for a while. The edges have started to dry. As you can see, lots more of those sapphire cells popped up. But I want to show you, check out that dried edge. That color is drying so beautifully. I think when this is dry, it's actually going to be prettier than it is right now. That color is so cool. Really, really pretty. But yeah, lots of sparkle as always. You can see these dried edges. That blue was really pretty. But that one color, which is, let me grab it. This one is just wow. Drying absolutely gorgeous. This part makes me angry. Those squiggles, they drive me nuts. But yeah, I'm really excited to see this piece dry. There's a little swirl I put in the center because it was just a little too wonky and I needed something there. I don't know if I love it or not. I do think it was better than it was though. It was too wonky. We'll see how that looks when it's dry. But there it is. This area up here with all of that color, that splash color is going to be so pretty. I'm definitely going to be using this splash color again in something. I have enough left for at least one more painting. I may have another bottle of that. I don't know if that was discontinued as well. I'm not sure if the whole line was discontinued or just the mysterious color. But there it is. I hope you enjoyed, hope you learned something. If you did, please do like, share, and subscribe and all that good stuff. Do check out the description box below for links to my PayPal tip jar if you feel so inclined. Always appreciate it, but definitely not expected. Also in the description box, you will find the link to my website, GinaDeLuca.net, where you can find my art and music and the fluid art inspiration cards for sale. And don't forget, the inspiration cards are also available at Amazon.com. You'll also find the links to my affiliates, Decoart, BLING, Arteza, and Amazon. And if you enter through those links, anything that you purchase off of those websites, I will receive a commission at no additional cost to you. And last, but certainly not least, join our Facebook group. Go make some art. Post your masterpieces, ask your questions, get some inspiration. Good times had by all. Well, most, you know, it's the internet. But, yeah. This right here is just, I think that's super cool looking. Really, I can't be mad at that. But that is it for today. And I hope y'all have a beautiful day. Now go make some art.